Welcome back to Grounded in Faith, where we ground ourselves in our faith to live it out in the world around us. Today, I'm excited to speak with Steven Caraher, who is actually a seminarian that's joining us here at St. John the Evangelist for this summer. So, Steven, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here at St. John. What is it, 10 weeks that you're on internship?
10 weeks, that's right. Yeah. So it's a long time and a short time. So.
Yeah, it can go both ways for sure.
Yeah, totally. So.
Yeah, so you've been in seminary now 4 years, correct?
I just finished my 4 of 6 years.
4, and you have 2 more left. Mm-hmm. 1 more until you get ordained a deacon.
I know, it's pretty crazy. We're like next in line.
I know. It's nuts because I think my last year of seminary was your first or
that's
something
correct,
right about that. So
so we overlap for just 1 year.
So, and also, Steven, we've spent more time, I think I've lived with you more than anybody else post-ordination because of COVID and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the previous parish I was at, you lived there for like 10 months with me, and then, but I have to ask, how is it living at the rectory with Father Sammy and myself?
Well, I'll be honest, it's kind of dangerous.
What do you mean by dangerous?
It's dangerous because of all the food.
Well, that's not coming from me. So.
No, and it's dangerous because not because the food's bad. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The food's a little bit too good, and there's so much of it. So it's always you always got to watch out. I don't want to like walk out of St. John with like 15 more pounds on me. So,
but it's a St. John 15.
Yeah, the St. John 15. That's right. So, no. But it's been a blessing to be here. So it's awesome to learn from Father Sammy and from you as well, and it's been a blessing to be at St. John.
Yeah, it's great having you here. So I don't want to just talk about a vocation story because actually I think you're going to be doing some of that on SJE Plus later on. Yeah. So get tuned and tune into his stuff soon. But I'm curious because I think so often in vocational stories there's these moments of transition or these moments in which kind of highlight what it is that's going on in somebody's life or kind of decision-making moments. And I'm sure there are some of those in your story as well. Is there a couple that you could point out like this was moments that kind of I transitioned or I made a decision, I had to do something differently?
Yeah, totally. There have been moments in my story where there's been, that spot, that point of decision. And those moments I notice have been around speaking out loud, saying something out loud. So the first thing, let me explain. I'll back up.
I like that.
So the very first time that I noticed that I had a call to the priesthood, I was in the car with my parents, and we were driving back home from a White Sox game, and my mom says, "Steven, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Classic.
How old were you?
I was maybe 7, 8 or something.
So a little kid, yeah.
Yeah, a little kid. And I was thinking, I think being a priest would be pretty good. I saw a priest, on Sundays, he wore fancy vestments, et cetera, et cetera. And I said out loud to her, Mom, I think I want to be a priest. And that moment kind of started my journey towards, learning about the priesthood through grade school, through middle school and high school. But the thing is while I was going through middle school, high school, beginning of college, I didn't tell anybody else besides that first moment that I told my mom that I wanted to be a priest. And it was just kind of something that I carried with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just kind of something that was always on my back, but it was something that was working out just by myself, but it wasn't in the light. Okay. Does that make sense? It was just kind of my own thing. It was my own pet project. Yeah.
That you're trying to work out behind the scenes.
Yeah, kind of work out behind the scenes, yeah.
And how often that doesn't work. So I'm not saying discernment's a sin, but that's where sin takes place is in the dark, right? Where we hide it away from people because we're ashamed or what have you. And all of a sudden when we bring light into it, it brings a new dimension because we bring Jesus into those moments. But it's also the same with discernment, I think, right? This moment in which, okay, we're going to invite other people, but really invite Jesus into that as well and not just make it your pet project.
Yeah, and that was exactly how I was reacting to it. I just wanted to keep it to myself. It's Jesus, you do your thing over here, I'm going to be over here. That all changed in college. So I went to a retreat.
Where'd you go to college?
So I went to college at Indiana University. So shout out.
We're going to have a lot of happy people and a lot of angry people.
Yeah. So very good. But it was good to go to Indiana University because they have a very strong Catholic ministry program for young adults, for college kids. And I went on this amazing retreat where it's just a lot of awesome spiritual experiences happening to you. I just remember one of the last nights of the retreat, just once again, an awesome thing happened. I was experiencing Jesus' love for me on a very intense, personal level. And we were back in a small group kind of debriefing what's been happening. And I remember the Lord placed in my heart, say out loud to these people that you want to be a priest. Say out loud. And I was just every fiber in my being was no. I've been carrying this my whole life and I've only told my mom once maybe, but
And you kind of hope she probably didn't remember.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. She does. I did ask.
Oh,
it.
Did you?
But yeah, so I've just been carrying this, but then just something came over me. It's why are you hiding this? Bring it to the light. So I was there, and those people in that small group, they were the first people who I talked to since my mom. Like I said to them out loud, I think the Lord is placing in my heart that I want to be a priest. Mm-hmm. And like just that simple, like saying that really simply, like it felt like a weight lifted from my shoulders. Because it was something that I was carrying. And from that moment, like my life kind of became like a series of dominoes. Like dominoes started falling for me to like get into seminary. I was invited to join a discernment group, so a group of young men and women who were thinking about a vocation to the priesthood or religious life. I was invited to that. It was like a weekly thing, and we were reading a book called To Save 1,000 Souls, which is an awesome book. I'd recommend it to any young man who's thinking about the priesthood. I just remember just kind of like devouring all this and just realizing like that this thing is kind of like really snowballing, but I wouldn't have all those experiences if I didn't say at that moment, like, I think the Lord is calling me to be a priest, and saying it out loud, getting it out in the open.
Yeah, which is so important because all of a sudden, like with any vocation, right? But I think like priesthood, religious life, but then also marriage, it's not just you discerning. For like priesthood, it's the church discerns also for you. Mm-hmm. Marriage, the other person has to discern, like, is this the person I want to marry, right? Like the religious community discerns, is this somebody who wants to be in the religious community? So it's so important to be able to say it out loud, because then that process started both ways and you're able to be a part of something that was bigger than yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously you then got into seminary.
Yeah.
And so there's always those moments then too. So is there other moments like saying it out loud that changed kind of direction or kind of brought about clarity?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first year of seminary, there was a lot of ups and there was a lot of downs. There was a lot of really high, intense spiritual highs, and then a lot of really intense spiritual lows.
Like, what am I doing with my life?
It's like
why am I here?
You know exactly how it is because you went through that whole seminary experience too. It's like one moment you're like, I'm the greatest seminarian in the world. I'm going to be the best priest ever. And the next moment it's like, I'm
That's
worthless.
how I always thought my life was.
And it turned out correct.
I'm really good with humility.
You could pay me later. But yeah, so it was like going through those spiritual lows. It's like, I'm just the worst seminarian ever. Like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't belong here. I just need to go back.
Bigger than I can't do this.
Yeah, but I was going through all those spiritual experiences. But once again, I was keeping it into myself. I had a spiritual director, but everything was like really on the surface with him, and I wasn't really getting down to the core of the issue. And I went through my whole first year of seminary going through like, it was this weird ground where like I was experiencing all these things and I was just really troubled, but I had that feeling like I was still supposed to be there. And I had no idea how to deal with that until I went to a retreat at the beginning of my second year of seminary. And this retreat was led by Father Timothy Gallagher, who you might know of. He's the priest who, he's written a lot about Ignatius's discernment of spirits.
Yeah, he's like the modern day, like, preeminent guy on Ignatius.
Yeah, absolutely. And he gave this beautiful retreat. And one of the first things that he said, the first couple of days was just about how important it is to bring these things to the light. How important it is to bring these things to the light. It's like
alarm bells ran out.
I know it's like, more or less. Yeah, it's like a light bulb. Pardon the pun. Just kind of like lit up, and it's like, wait a second, like, I'm letting all these things just kind of rule my life, all these things that I've kept in the dark. So I went back to my room in seminary. I got my spiritual journal and I just wrote down everything that I experienced or any lie that I thought that I heard in myself, like, you're not worth it, you're not gonna make it, you don't have what it takes. I wrote down just a line by line by line and just writing it down and just seeing it on the paper and just like stepping back and saying like, whoa. Like, the enemy has been lying to me. The devil has been lying to me, and he's trying to get in the way of this vocation that the Lord has planted in my heart. So what I did is I looked at it and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna reject this. I took my pen, and I scratched it all out. And then I turned my page and I started writing all the different affirmations that I've heard the Lord say to me in my past year of seminary. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how good a Father we have, and how terrible a liar the devil is, how terrible an accuser he is. And he works in the shadows. That's the thing that I realized, is that if I just keep it into myself, I just keep it within myself and not bring it to the light, that's his playground. That's where he works and where he gets us.
He's really good at whispering it in our ears, right?
Oh, yeah,
you're not
really
good enough. You're not, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. So it was so good just to get out, like once again, just like that moment at Indiana University, I really felt just like a weight come off my shoulders. And that rest of the retreat, I was just riding high on consolation. I was just really, it was just beautiful just to live in the Father's love in that moment and just realize like seriously, like chains, like just felt like they fell from my wrists. Mm-hmm. So it was just such a beautiful and freeing experience.
Nice. That's amazing, because I think it's not just in discernment, but it's also, I think, as I said before, in our sinfulness, we can feel just trapped in as we hide in that moment. Just, I think in the spiritual life, it's just a truth of bringing it to the light of Jesus Christ. And sometimes it's also just bringing it to the light of a spiritual director, somebody that we can trust in the spiritual life to say, yeah, this is where I'm struggling because I'm lying to myself, or the devil's lying to me, or whispering these things, and I'm starting to believe them, right?
Totally. Yeah.
No, and I think these probably are not going to be the two only isolated moments in your life.
Oh,
I'm sure there's hundreds of others as well. But no, if there was somebody, listening that's kind of experiencing similar things, right? Like, I just don't feel adequate enough. What is that? What would you tell them? What would that advice be?
Mm-hmm. Don't listen to the lies.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the lies, and bring them to the light. Bring them to the light. That's the most important thing you can do, because the devil works in such a way that, he wants you to think like you are the one who's the problem. And that if you bring it to the light, it's going to just cause even more problems. But he does not want it in the light, because God works in the light. So bring whatever is on your heart, whatever is chaining you down, and bring it to the light through confession. Confession, what a blessing we have, the sacrament of confession, where we're able to speak out loud, to a priest what has been weighing us down. Like, go to confession, find a priest for spiritual direction, find somebody who you trust, who's been on that journey, who's walked the walk, and share what's on your heart. Because when we share what has been binding us and bring it to the light, we'll start to find that our chains are broken and that we'll be free. So that'd be my advice for anybody who's dealing with that.
That's for sure. If you want to hear more from Steven, you have a podcast as well. What is the name of it?
I've got a podcast. It's called Father and Dad. I love it. My dad came up with it. So it's me and my dad. We every month we'll put out a podcast episode, and it's basically kind of documenting my journey through seminary along with him. So it's my perspective of going through seminary along with my dad's perspective. So a family perspective, like what's it like having a son who's discerning the priesthood, and then my perspective as well is what is it like being the son of a family as I'm discerning priesthood. So it's called Father and Dad. You can find us on Spotify or anywhere else where podcasts live, and it's been a blessing so far to do that.
It's fun to listen to those episodes for sure.
It's fun to make them.
Nice. Ground yourself in your faith, just like Steven. Maybe your story is similar. Somebody's story is similar to this. Share this episode with them if you find it helpful. That way we can spread the good news of Jesus, so we can ground ourselves in our faith to live it out in the world around us. God bless.